Coming to you live from the island of Tafiti. It's the Movie Change Up podcast. As always, I am your host, Joe Fricky, joined by my co-host, Tristan Mayer, where each week we kind of break down what happened, what released this week on Disney+. Plus. I think it was a pretty solid week overall from Disney+. Plus. We got some new drops, we got some trailers, we got some shows. Tristan, what were your thoughts on Disney Plus this week?
Yeah, pretty good week for Disney Plus. What if not quite a standout, but a solid one? But yeah, I think the headline drop was definitely Star Wars Visions. So we're gonna get a lot of talk out of that one. It'll be good to talk about that. And I've seen a lot of divisive opinions. People who rank them have different episodes all over the rankings. So it'll be interesting to see where you have yours at and where I have mine at, and see who fell on what side for each of the episodes.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be breaking. If you see our sidebars over here, you can kind of figure out what you're breaking down. But maybe you're listening to the podcast version, which is slowly growing in audience. So we're going to be talking about the What If episode. What if Thor were an only child? We'll be talking about the most recent episode of Doogie Kame Aloha MD. We're going to be talking about that Muppets Haunted Mansion trailer that dropped. And we're going to do a complete breakdown on every episode of Star Wars Visions. And then we'll also be talking about Disney Plus Day, which will be November 12th, where it's kind of going to be like a little online expo on Disney Plus, where they're going to be talking about basically their projects of like 2022 and beyond. So without further ado, let's get started with What If Thor Were an Only Child. I got a little image here if you didn't see the episode. Basically, the idea was, what if Odin didn't keep Loki and adopt Loki, and instead turned Loki over to the Frost Giants and returned him home? What would Thor's life be like? And you kind of see he's basically still got that same heart of gold type deal, but he's just kind of more of a douchebag. He's a party-going California douchebag, is basically how I would describe Thor. And he decides he wants to have a massive party on Earth, which can cause problems, and so this has Maria Hill contact Captain Marvel a little earlier than before because they think Thor's party might lead to Earth's destruction. Tristan, what were your thoughts on this episode? And also, if you're watching on the video aspect of the show, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube, you might notice Tristan's camera cutting in and out. His audio stays throughout, so he'll be with us the entire time. It's just his video might go away every now and then.
Yeah, I love the first Thor movie. It's one of my favorite MCU movies. I think it's kind of underrated in its comedy, especially. So I saw this episode and I thought, oh, it's a comedy set within like the timeline of the first Thor movie, and an alternate version on Thor that's even more ridiculous than he was in the first Thor movie. So I was kind of looking forward to this one. And overall, it delivered okay. I wouldn't say it was bad. It's not one that I'm going to look back and be like, oh, that was one of the worst episodes, but it's among the mid tier, just one that was a fine, passable, good time. But until those last couple seconds, I didn't really feel like something that was really going for it and changing anything. It was just, let's have the characters and have fun. It reminded me of the T'Challa episode where it was just like, oh, let's take all the characters, and kind of throw them into ridiculous situations and have it be fun.
Yeah, that's kind of how this episode wasn't for me. It wasn't mind-blowing. It didn't, reconceptualize how I thought of Thor. It kind of was interesting, though. There were some dynamics that were kind of fun, like the fact that Thor and Loki got along when they weren't raised as brothers, but they kind of became best friends when you had the line, brother from another mother. And it was kind of interesting to see how him and Jane Foster still fell in love and all that, even though how he came to Earth was under different circumstances.
Yeah, that's always fun to see those through lines of what changes and stays the same through the characters' arcs, even though everything is different. And Thor's arc in the first movie is similar, where it's like he's this very arrogant character and he's full of himself and thinks that he's the untouchable god, and then he kind of gets reality checked. And this is kind of similar to that. And I thought the action was also really good. I wanted to praise that too. I thought the fight towards the end with Captain Marvel and Thor was really interesting, strong visuals, a lot of great visuals this week on Disney Plus, but this was a standout for me. I thought a fun lead up to it was up and down in the comedy, but yeah, I thought the action at the end was delivered. So if you're watching the show for the action, you at least got a little bit of some action at the end.
Yeah, that's true. But the main talking point about this episode, because this episode was rather generic, was the last 5 seconds. Where, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the episode and you want to, and you don't want to be spoiled. There's a big thing that happens in the last 5 seconds, where essentially a Infinity Stone wielding Ultron slash Vision appears through a portal and basically confirms everything I've thought since about episode 2 of this show. In that all of the episodes are connected, and this isn't just an anthology show.
Yep, and I think it's also worth noting that the Watcher was even surprised by this. It wasn't just us caught off guard. He was they're wrapping up the story, giving us a lesson, and then he kind of had like a wait what moment. I think he literally said wait what and looked down, and he was plot twisted by Ultron. So we're gonna see even the Watchers kind of off guard in this situation. So yeah, we were talking about even before the show started. I think one of us predicted that the Watcher was going to become involved and have to put himself into the plot somehow, and it looks like this is going to be what gets him there. Something that he can't predict or be aware of, something that can threaten him directly. That's going to be this Ultron Vision with an Infinity Stone. That's really exciting, and it could be a fun way to bring everything together.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Anything more you want to add about what if Thor were an only child? Or wasn't really a whole lot going on this episode as far as.
I
like,
also thought it
themes
was
and
cool
everything.
that Loki was grew into be an actual frost giant.
Yeah.
Like he was a full size, not like a runt frost giant. He was like a full sized
Yeah.
frost giant. It was pretty cool, and I like
Yeah.
that Tom Hiddleston still voiced him when he was like the frost giant Loki.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. All right. You ready to move on to Doogie Kame Aloha MD?
I'm ready to move on to that show. Another impressive show.
Yeah, this show, honestly, like I'm waiting for it to drop off, and I don't think it's going to. At least not this season. If you didn't hear us talk about this before and don't know what this show is, it's essentially a reboot of the show Doogie Howser, but now it focuses on a girl in Hawaii who's a 16-year-old doctor. And the plot of this episode was basically she's like, hey, I'm a full-on doctor. I'm out here saving lives. And my parents won't let me borrow the car. And I feel like that's definitely a plot that could get very much like Disney Channel show-ish. And I still feel like their show is extremely good at balancing the line of her being, this mature, accomplished doctor while also being a 16-year-old kid. And I felt like the tone of the show balances well. It's very much a family show. It's definitely not like strictly a kids show. And I like how they resolved a lot of the plot lines, and I like the characterizations. It's not overly kiddish, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm continually impressed by the show. You mentioned the tone, and I think that is what is always impressive for me of this show is it could so easily just be another kids show, and there's plenty of that on Disney Plus where it's just like this is clearly not for me, not for us, and we've covered that before. We covered the first episode and never talked about it again, and I think it shows that we're 3 episodes in and we're still talking about it and saying it's just as good as it was. It's might not captivate you dramatically in some way that you in like the way like the top tier of television might or something, but like if you're looking for a nice comfort watch, I think this is a great comfort watch. It's a nice every week to sit down and watch like this show with these characters that care about each other and resolve their problems amicably and get along well. And yeah, especially a genuine family show. It's not just for kids. You're never gonna get something that crosses a line into being like, oh, maybe it's for not for kids. And it's a perfect balance. Teens love it, I would think, and can connect to the characters. And we're not teens at all. We're adults who are liking it too. So I think that shows the age range.
Yeah, and unlike a lot of Disney Channel shows where the parents are essentially just like giant kids and like dumb and annoying, the parents are actually like legit parents in this show. They're act like adults, behave like adults. Sure, they might be a little goofy at times, but like the mom on the show is a doctor, and there's no point in the show where I don't believe she's a doctor. And the dad kind of just runs his own, because it's on Hawaii, so he runs like this shaved ice and lay truck, and I fully believe that he's capable of doing that. And I'm not like, how is this moron out here driving a truck? And,
Yeah, I think the parents are great characters. Like you said, they could so easily become generic, but they're not here, and I think they're easy to root for, and you actually kind of empathize with their problems. They're not just there to lightly come in when the main character needs them to connect to their plot. They actually have plots of their own, so parents watching this aren't just like bored to tears. They actually, I would think, have characters they can connect to, and people who have struggles like, how do I balance my work and family life? And the dad who's trying to be like a cool dad to his daughter who's now kind of growing up and you have moments throughout where he's not quite the dad. He's not quite as cool as he used to be. I think there's a moment in the previous episode where they mentioned some kind of he was so romantic in his past, and he was like this really suave guy, and it's kind of cool to see like he was the suave guy. Now he's like this dorky dad.
Yeah,
they feel dorky in real ways that actual parents I think feel that way, not like big parodies.
for sure, definitely. I was gonna ask a question. Oh, there's a hashtag we need to get going on this show. Um, so as I was watching this episode, I had one question, and then it's hashtag Where's Walter? He was a big
Yeah, I
part of
mean,
episode 1 and 2, and he just wasn't even mentioned in episode 3. Hashtag Where's Walter?
we've discussed Walter so much on the show. He's like a primary discussion point, and I feel kind of ripped off that he wasn't in this episode. Honestly, I saw on IMDb that he's listed for many episodes, so I'm hoping for a Walter focus. Maybe give me like a whole Walter episode to make up for
Yeah,
it, like
give
a bottle episode just to
yeah
Walter.
yeah Walter and his family. Maybe he's actually like an adult like dentist. You know?
Yeah, he's got like a whole life,
Yeah,
and he has like a whole different city he goes to and lives like a life.
yeah. He's a kid dentist. You know?
Yeah, wow, Joe, we wrote a whole spin off right now.
Yeah, with Walter. Ain't no way his name's. Or what if it's like a reverse thing? What if he's actually an adult, but he has some disease or syndrome like Andy Milonakis that makes him look 16, but his
Oh,
character's
that's a
30?
good one. He's been a dentist for like 40 years, and now he's living as a kid
Yep,
because he can't live among adults.
yep. It's a reverse Doogie Howser. Boom.
Disney, we've been giving you so many good ideas for so many shows. I don't understand why you haven't made any of them yet.
All right. Anything else you want to say about? Oh, one of the things I wanted, as I was watching, did you have the same thought I did that they were messing with her and that they were actually gonna like buy her a car, and like
A
they were
little
just
bit,
waiting, or they were like gonna give her like the parents, family was gonna get a new car and they were gonna give her like the mom's car and they were just messing with her the whole time.
yeah, because that's like a kind of a trope in a lot of these shows where they'll have that arc of like, oh, they're not going to give it to the kid, and the kid does the hard work, and then at the end, the parents are like, oh, actually, we are going to.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I thought a little bit about that, especially now that you mention it. But yeah, that would have been a good possibility.
Yeah, I like how it wrapped up with basically them kind of realizing that they kind of take for granted who their daughter is to an extent. So I
Hmm.
thought that worked well. But yeah, if you don't have anything else for Doogie Kame Aloha, say we move on to our next topic.
Let's do it.
We're kind of
I'm
speed
excited for
running
this
through
one.
this because we know our last two topics are going to take a while. So
Yeah,
um,
I'm really excited for the big one. Our headline topic. I
yeah,
think we have a
and
lot to
that's
talk about for that.
But however, our next topic is the Muppets Haunted Mansion trailer, which I forgot to look up when that releases. I know it's like the early October, maybe even October 1st, is when the movie drops on Disney Plus. It's a strictly Disney Plus release, and it's if you haven't seen the trailer, it's kind of what you would expect. It's the Haunted Mansion with the Muppets. There's a few human characters in there. I remember saw Ed Asner in there, R.I.P. Will Arnett is kind of like the host. He's kind of the butler. I don't know. I've never ridden the ride. My only experience with the Haunted Mansion is the Eddie Murphy movie. So he basically plays the Terrence Stamp role. Is how I connect to it. Will Arnett does. Um, and I remember Miss Piggy is the woman whose head is in the jar. That was played by I think Jennifer Tilly in the Eddie Murphy movie. Um, but yeah, and
Yeah,
I've
I'm
also whatever I can't, behind the attraction. I've also watched that for the Haunted Mansion, and part of after seeing that and watching the trailer, part of me wonders did they actually film parts of this movie on the ride?
It looks like they might have. I have ridden the Disneyland version of How to Mansion. I'm not sure if there's one at the World or other versions of the parks, but yeah, I was a big fan of the ride, so I'm looking forward to this. I haven't quite had the experience with the Muppets though. I think I saw like one Muppets movie, and I've seen some Kermit. I'm more experienced with like various characters of the Muppets and other things, and like I
Yeah,
love the look of the Muppets and other individual personalities, and like them making cameos in other shows and talk shows and things like that has always been really fun. So I'm honestly excited to watch this to be my first time watching like a new Muppets thing and it's coming out. And it's theme. I love Halloween, as you can slightly see from the background of my shot here. I'm getting ready for my Halloween vibes in October. So yeah, it'll be fun. A ride I love. to an iconic franchise to be introduced to. So it'll be a fun one to watch.
All right, and I looked it up. It comes out Friday, October 8th is when that drops. So yeah, it looks fun. It looks basically what you would expect from a Muppets Haunted Mansion. Obviously, there's like a joke in there where a character is about to say hell, and they stop him, and they're like, "You can't say that." So obviously, it's going to be very G-rated. It's Disney Plus and the Muppets.
Yeah,
It's
I'm curious because the Haunted Mansion ride is like really has that perfect balancing of being dark but not too dark. But there is like in the opening sequence, like there's at Disneyland when you go through the rides, especially in some of the more iconic ones, like there's this whole build up where you're going through the line and they have like a lore that's building up. And at the beginning of the Haunted Mansion, as you're going down the elevator, they have they emulate someone hanging themselves and killing themselves above you in the elevator as part of the horror. And it's one of the most iconic parts of the ride. So I'm really curious how they're going to adapt like some of the darker elements of the Haunted Mansion ride and how they'll avoid like it's very much about death and like darker images of horror and very gothic. So it'll be interesting to see how that clashes with the Muppet style.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they pull it off. I'm intrigued to see it. I might watch it, get 10 minutes into it, and be like, I hate this, and turn it off. But we shall see. All right. You want to move on to our big topic for the day?
Yeah, we have a big topic coming up. I'm looking forward to that though. And if you want to see other Halloween related Disney stuff, at some point on Twitter they put out like a whole list of all of their Halloween episodes. So throughout October, I'm probably going to be covering like a handful of those week to week as
Yeah.
I'm watching them.
Yeah, during October we'll do more reviews of like Halloween stuff, especially as What If wraps up, and we obviously won't have Vision, so I think we'll be in a little. I mean, we've been saying every week, oh, we're gonna be in a drought here the next few weeks, and they just keep dropping content. So who knows? Yeah, because we're not getting anything Star Wars related until Book of Boba Fett around Christmas time, and we're not getting anything after What If drops or finishes up, and that only has 2 more weeks, so that's basically early October is when that's done, and we're not getting anything Marvel until Hawkeye
Yeah,
November
okay.
12th, so we'll have all of October really of not much of the big property, so we'll be able to really focus in and hone in on Halloween. We might do some reviews of some old DComs like Under Wraps or Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire or something like that.
Classic.
So, all right, you ready to move on to Star Wars Visions?
I'm ready to move on.
All right, yeah. So Star Wars Visions. If you didn't watch us last week and you've kind of been out of, the Star Wars discussion online, Star Wars Visions, basically, Lucasfilm was in talks with various anime studios, or anime, I guess is the correct pronunciation, about doing non-canon Star Wars shorts in their style, whatever story they wanted to do. And they all like made various stories, and Lucasfilm put them up on Disney Plus. They're not canon. Some of them I think could easily Lucasfilm could be like, right now this one's canon and it wouldn't really mess with anything. Others there's 0% chance any of it could really be canon. And then there's other ones that you could probably, if you told it in a different medium and shaped a few things and just changed a few details here and there, it could easily slide into canon. But as of right now, they're just fun stories to watch, be entertained by. So let's kick off with the first one, and the first one was titled The Duel, and Tristan and I actually did a live watch-along to that. You can find that currently here on our Twitch stream. It's also up on our YouTube channel right now, so if you're interested in watching us watch The Duel, go ahead and find that. This one basically very much heavily inspired by Kurosawa. Uh, Black and white imagery, except for the lights, were all various colors. Um, Really interesting old school kind of episode to take Star Wars back to its roots with the whole Kurosawa aspect. And basically, the fight is two dark side users kind of going against each other. And I thought it was a really interesting and fun episode. Tristan, I know we watched it together, but what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, we watched it together. I pulled out this shirt today, and it has, you can obviously not tell, but from if you're watching on Twitch, you might be able to tell, but I have little Hawaiian Star Wars on here. Felt like a nice version of Visions, and I'm looking and I realize that there actually are like samurai versions of Darth Vader on here. So I have a theme shirt for this episode. But
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
uh, yeah, I had a good time with this one. We watched it live, and it was really a fun one to kick it off with because it was so stylistic. It's probably like these are all very stylistic, but this I think has the most obvious style to it that really stands it out from the rest of them. And I really liked how much it connected back to the true origins of Star Wars and George Lucas's initial inspirations. And I think that's something that's at the root of Star Wars and at the core of these stories. And I think it was especially for the premiere of the season to start with like going all the way back to the thing that brought this to what we have today. And that was really a cool thing to see.
Yeah, for sure. Did you watch any of the featurettes for the episodes?
I watched a couple of them, but I haven't gotten a chance to go through all of them yet.
Did you watch the one for this episode?
No, I haven't seen this one.
So remember, so if you watched us watch it, there's two moments where they're fighting on the log, and we were like, oh, that'd be awesome if like a future Star Wars project did a reference to this. That scene, however, is a reference to a previous moment in Star Wars. Can you take a guess at what moment that is?
Okay, I'm trying to think. They're on a
They're
log.
on the
They're
log, and the
rolling.
log's floating around the river.
It's
Any?
got to be reference to Anakin versus Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Revenge of Sith. And there's another moment too with the waterfall where their waterfall's coming in between them, and they're on either side of it. Any guess what that was a visual reference to?
So I couldn't guess on that one. Maybe Last Jedi. There's a waterfall related to some
No,
water
it's
imagery in Last
actually
Jedi.
a reference to the Phantom Menace with the laser wall between Maul and Qui-Gon.
I
Uh,
love it.
and they said there's a moment too, because as the director is describing it, he's like, there's a moment where you're seeing Qui-Gon be super like patient, and he's calm, and he's like just meditating, and Maul's just impatient, and he hits the laser door with his lightsaber, and then it cuts to side by side. You're seeing Maul hit the laser door with his lightsaber next to the Sith woman hit the waterfall with her lightsaber, and it was very much, you could see like the inspiration they took from the Phantom Menace. So it was kind of cool for us to be like, oh, they should reference this in a future Star Wars, and for them to be like, no, this was us referencing something else, and it being like
Hmm.
so subtle that we missed it. But
Yeah, and I love how much this whole series takes little bits and imagery from Star Wars, and we'll talk about it throughout the whole discussion. But yeah, that's something that I was really impressed with overall was just how well this series kind of just took uh, images and moments and kind of themes of Star Wars. It never ever felt like just repeating Star Wars
no,
in this show.
yeah, this is one of the, when it comes to Star Wars, it's one of the things I always like go back to as far as like what I hope future creators do, is something John Favreau said in one of the Mandalorian um, gallery episodes that are basically behind the scenes featurettes, and it was him saying like when he set out to make the Mandalorian, he didn't want to like reference Star Wars. He wanted to reference and be inspired by the things that George Lucas referenced and was inspired by. And so that's kind of what a lot of these episodes reminded me of. It was going back to the original like samurai films and stuff that George Lucas was inspired by. So
I wanted to mention too the studio that did this episode, Kamikaze 2. I did mention it our last stream, but they did Batman Ninja. So if you want to see
yeah,
like a very not exactly the same animation style, of course, but like it's similar to Batman Ninja in the way that it's made. So if you liked the ninja takes on Star Wars, you want to see a Batman Ninja, check it out. It's on HBO Max, which is not this show, but hey,
yeah.
I like the competitors once in a while.
All right, and did you say what your ranking for this episode was?
I have this one at number 3 on my list.
Okay, yeah, I had it number one, so I'm curious to see what you incorrectly thought was better than this.
I will say my it was hard to put things over this, but my one negative towards this is just that I think the choice to make it Extreme Kurosawa is a bit more of an easy choice comparatively to more of the creative animation styles that were used future in the future episodes. So for me, that's what knocked down a couple of pegs. Is I didn't think it was as creative of a choice visually as some of the other episodes were.
All right, you ready to move on to our next episode?
I'm ready.
All right, the next episode is entitled Tatooine Rhapsody, and it basically focuses on this young rock band, trying to make it in the world where the Empire is risen. We have our main character here, voiced by Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the English dub version, who you kind of find out is a Jedi Padawan who survived Order 66, and he's working with various of his friends to create this rock band, and this is the only one that has known characters. We come across Boba Fett, we come across Jabba the Hutt, and it's a very fun, interesting episode. I think this is probably the most mixed episode. I think people either like it a lot or people are very much against it. Maybe they didn't like the song in the end, but I enjoyed the episode. What did you think?
Yeah, this one was not a great one for me. I thought it was okay. I think there's moments that I liked, but I wanted to mention you said that Joseph Gordon-Levitt did the English voicing, and I forgot to mention that I actually didn't watch this in English. I watched this whole series outside of our premiere stream. I decided to watch it all in Japanese with subtitles. So, and this is the episode that convinced me to do it because I got like a couple seconds into the song and I was like, there's no way this is written to be in English. This is like, these lyrics are like not great. So I turned it on to Japanese and I thought the song was actually really good in Japanese compared to what it was in English. And I decided from then on out to just kind of watch the whole show in Japanese to get the true anime experience, I guess.
Well, I'm a dumb American, and I do watch, foreign films and other stuff. But when it comes to animation, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just watch it in English. So you don't know any of the American voice cast, do you, or did you? Have you
I
seen?
heard some of the names that were in the episodes, but I don't know who was in what or
Okay, so
outside
we
of
have
obviously Boba Fett was in this,
yeah,
and it was
Tamura Morrison as Boba Fett. You have Joseph Gordon-Levitt as the Jedi, and then you also have Bobby Moynihan as Geezer the Hutt. Who is one of the members of the rock band, who I was hoping when he was first introduced would be revealed to be Rada, who is Jabba's son in the Clone Wars movie, because that's a character. I mean, it's Jabba's son, and we've seen him once, and I just want him to pop up again. And this is the one that I know it's very mixed and people aren't fans of it, but this is the one episode I feel like Lucasfilm could come out and be like, everything about this episode is 100% canon, and I'd be like, okay, because it doesn't break any rules. It completely fits within the universe. The known characters we saw with Jabba and Boba Fett are like accurate to the portrayals of what we've seen. So I'd be okay if they made this episode fully canon. But one of the things I really liked was that he changed his lightsaber hilt into his microphone. I kind of like that he changed like what it's still the microphone basically still brings peace in a way, but he just changed how it does it, I guess.
yeah, and I think it was powerful too because uh, I'm not into music as I was before, but there was a time where I was into music and I was playing with friends and we were like we were doing a handful of things here and there, and music can really bond people and bring people together from different cultures and different classes. And this episode really focused on that and like the power of music to bond people who are from literally across the galaxy of different species from different planets, and would in any other situation not be together, but because of this band they are together. And I thought that was cool to see it, especially I think young people who are into music would like this. If you're like a teenager, I think I would have liked this a lot if I was like 12 and I was into the kind of music that they're playing, and I was into the kind of like rebel angst of like standing up against the man. And I think this could work for people who are into that kind of a thing, and especially if you're into music and into the music industry. I think this could be one that might be one reason why people who are really positive on it are so positive on it. But
Yeah.
for me, I was not quite positive on it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I don't know if you saw the behind the scenes featurette for this one, but basically, it was more focused on the people of Lucasfilm, and like every time the Japanese studio sent like the Lucasfilm people stuff, whether it was like their drawings of Boba Fett or the drawings of the main character, like the song they had sent in, like every step of the way, the people of Lucasfilm were like, I don't know about this one, like I'm a little hesitant. But then when they finally saw it and they saw how it all came together, they were, super on board with it and big fans of it. And I kind of like that aspect of like the entire way they were just like, I don't think this is gonna work, but I obviously did. And I will say, I don't know where you ranked it. This is the one I ranked 8th out of 9 ninth. But I will say overall, I did enjoy all of them. So just because I ranked it lower, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, one positive I thought was the character design. So it's interesting they were like hesitant about the character designs, and I thought that was a really cool thing.
Yeah.
I like their kind of like shrunken action figure kind of look on some of the characters, and I like that a lot. And I also wanted to mention, I will say my ranking for this is the same as yours. I have it at 8, but that's not. I did not like this one. It was okay, but for me, it was just definitely one of the weaker ones of the bunch, and well, I also wanted to mention the studio is Studio Color Radio, I believe is how you say it, and uh, I don't want to leave them hanging like I don't like their work because they made Penguin Highway, a movie I really liked. It's about a small village where the main character is this girl who's in like sixth or seventh grade. She's a middle schooler, and uh, for some reason, all of these penguins start showing up in her like village in the middle of similar to the village we'll see in the Village Bride, like a remote village with where there's be no reason for penguins to be. So if you want to see something interesting from the studio that looks somewhat similar and also follows young people and kind of like a coming of age story, it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. And they also had a because this two of the studios doubled up, and I can't remember what the other one was, but this one also had another short that was more widely my, that was more well received than this one, I would say. And there were people who were fans of this one, like I was, but they did another one that I think people liked better overall because I think it more matched the tone of what people would expect from Star Wars. Where this was more um, kind of different in tone, I would say. We haven't really had anything that focused on music like this. But you ready to go to the next episode?
Yeah, what do we got?
All right, the next episode is called Twins, and it's the most balls to the wall, like wild, crazy, could never be canon episode that there was. Like this is the one that I don't know. You'd have to change so much it would be unrecognizable from the original episode to make it canon. And it's basically these two twins who were created by the dark side or created like using the dark side during the time of the Empire to like help rule and control the galaxy. And eventually, one of the twins turns to the light side, and they kind of have to battle each other out in this most crazy, epic, over-the-top battle that you could ever possibly imagine in Star Wars. You have two Star Destroyers that are like connected to each other. It's wild. It's crazy. We saw a little bit of the Haldo maneuver in there. So, and I saw people complaining about this. One complaint about this episode I will never understand is like there's a time where they're out in space and they're like fine. And I'm like, you've seen all of the other crazy over the topness in this episode, and like you're questioning how they're able to breathe in space. I'm just like, people need a hobby, I guess. But yeah, I don't think I was as high on this episode as most people, but I did like it. I ranked this one seventh out of 9.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought this was awesome. Like it, this is the most anime of these episodes where it's just like balls to the wall action, and it's like the dialogue is like right out of a manga where it's just like really on the nose. Like, oh, he's overcharging his power, and they're going. It felt like I was. I think anime, especially like this style of anime, feels like it's really in touch with its roots. It's comic books. Like all the dialogue is very much just there to service the visuals, and I think that's something Studio Trigger does really well. Most of their stuff looks like this, and it's very much like, okay, we're gonna piece the story together enough so that we can give you the visual medium that we look at animation as. And I think this is a great one. I was into the characters enough to follow the story. You know, I like that there were these two twins born of the dark side of the Force, and kind of reminded me of Rey and Kylo Ren in the way that they had this like connection born from the Force that was kind of bonding them throughout time, even though they were on these opposing paths. I really liked the visuals. I thought I have like color reactive lights on my TV, and this is the one episode that
Oh
made the
yeah,
most use out of it.
did it break it?
I know I was mind blown by that one, but yeah, this is very very Studio Trigger. So if you like this, I'd recommend checking out Promare, which is a movie they made that came out a couple of years ago. That's really really action oriented, and it very much looks like this. And they also have a series Kill la Kill as one of the biggest anime shows in terms of popularity, and that's from them as well. But they have a ton of stuff, so you could definitely look them up. And they have another episode on Vision as well. So for me, I put the twins as my number one episode.
Oh, interesting. And I will say the American dub version, you have Allison Brie and Neil Patrick Harris as the voice of the twins. So
Yeah, I thought this was really in touch with Star Wars and like the duality of
yeah,
Star Wars and like the embodiment of the Force and how it's like this good and like kind of in this constant battle for control and like poetry it rhymes, you know. And I think that Star Wars is all about a lot about family, a lot about twins and duality, and that was throughout this episode. And I liked that kind of moment at the end when he says like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do what I can to find her and save her still," and he sees like the twin sun setting in, and it kind of connects everything together. And that's what I liked about this so much is it didn't feel like Star Wars in its in some ways. Like it didn't look like Star Wars, but
yeah,
it felt like Star Wars. You know what I mean? And it had so many of the beats that connect it. And I thought that twin sun shot at the end really tied it all together. Where I was like, this feels like something that it's not canon to Star Wars, but it feels united with Star Wars in
yeah.
the way that its themes are very much in touch with Star Wars.
I would agree with that. All right. You ready to move on to the next episode?
I'm ready.
All right. The next episode is titled "The Village Bride," and it's essentially this young couple is getting married, and we find out that the bride is essentially going to go off with this criminal that is kind of attacking her village and raiding her village in her grandfather's place to keep her grandfather and her village safe. And these two Jedi find out about what's going on, and the older Jedi is kind of like, sometimes these type of things happen, and you just kind of have to let them happen. And the younger Jedi, the character F, is essentially like, I don't want to just stand around and let this happen. Like this is wrong. And kind of the showdown between Jedi F and this kind of criminal raider guy that is attacking the village. And I really liked this episode. It reminded me a lot of like the '90s, like the look of it and animation and like the feel of like the Studio Ghibli kind of movies. Um, so this is actually my second favorite one of all of them. I will say
Yeah.
one thing. There's a shot, a moment in the very end, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, where the character F like pulls out her lightsaber and she has like these heels on, and the heels part comes apart, and I thought we were gonna have her have like the slow walking Yojimbo shot, which is like the super iconic shot of Toshiro Mifune from Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, with her just walking towards the raider. I was very wrong. We got forced running in Star Wars again, because she runs and kills that guy in less than the blink of an eye. And I thought it was amazing, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I'll say first off that I have the same spot as you. It's my number two of the series, so we agree on one
Oh
here.
yeah, you have good taste occasionally.
Once in a while, you're right, Joe. But yeah, I thought this was really in touch with. You mentioned the Studio Ghibli visuals, and I love the way that this one talks about the Force and it being like part of nature and part of the planet, and like this one for me was battling for the number one spot because I thought this was just about as good as the twins was just in its own way, you know.
Yeah,
So it was more just like what was I looking for, but for me, the Force is like what I watch Star Wars for. I think it's the most interesting part of the lore and the interesting part of the whole universe of Star Wars. And I thought it was really fascinating to see how that was adapted into through the lenses of a new culture and through the lenses of like this fantasy world, you know. And
yeah,
it I love the way that it had it as like this literal physical thing that was living like moving the world around them. And I thought that was yeah, I thought this was really great. Maybe it'll be my number one if I when I rewatch it. Who knows?
yeah. One of the things I really like is how like various cultures view the Force within Star Wars. Like the Chiss, which is Grand Admiral Thrawn's species, like call them Skywalkers in their language, and like that's how they view them. And then there's this book where Luke's traveling around and like detailing his adventures, and the people that experience the Force there consider like compare it to like the ocean waves of like it rises and falls and stuff like that. And so it was kind of interesting to see how this culture views the Force, and I really liked the episode.
Yeah, I definitely liked it a lot. This is one. It'd be interesting to talk when we get to the end of what we'd like to see from the future of the show,
Yeah,
but this is one that I would like to see like a return to at some point, or at
yeah,
least like another work from in this style from the studio.
yeah.
Maybe not the same characters, but I want to mention the studio now that I said it. Cinema Citrus, they're a great studio. They did Made in Abyss, which I thought was incredible. So maybe I'm a little biased coming into this because it does kind of look like Made in Abyss, the animation style, but that's a much darker fantasy. But I really like that one. It follows young people going into this big uh, cataclysmic hole that leads to like some abyss, some darkness below that they can't understand, and they leave their kind of orphanage behind to go on this adventure into the abyss. And as they get deeper and deeper, the creatures get more and more crazy, and the world gets more and more crazy. So if you want something definitely dark, but if you're into fantasy and you're like, I wish Star Wars was really really dark, you might like Made in Abyss.
Yeah. And also, just to continue the trend of saying the voice cast, the main character of F, the lead character, is voiced by Karen Fukuhara, who you might recognize as Katana in the Suicide Squad, or just Suicide Squad. And if you don't know who Katana is, she's got my back. She can cut all of you in half with one sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
Did
So,
you memorize that, Joe?
nope, I looked it up and read it.
Wow.
I'm not that talented.
Speaking of the sword, though, I thought the lightsaber was really
Oh
cool
yeah,
in this
the
episode.
yellow like katana. I mean, it was a katana, so you had to get Karen Fukuhara, who played Katana,
Yeah, I
to
was gonna say it's probably my favorite of the alternate lightsabers we got in this series. I think it was
yeah,
just different enough that it didn't feel ridiculous. Like some of the stuff, especially in like the twins, it was like this is like
yeah,
so beyond the realm of reality. But this
yeah.
felt like something that what and feasibly could exist in the visual realm of Star Wars.
Yeah, the Village Bride is definitely one. I feel like they could also basically just essentially say is canon. It takes place during the Clone Wars, and you could be like, oh, we've just never really met these two Jedi before, and they go off on like this. Legitimately, could have just been like a one-off episode of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I could see this being a planet that Obi-Wan or Ahsoka show up to, and they're like, "Oh, look at this culture," and like
Yeah,
a
yeah. All right. So next up, we got the Ninth Jedi. Basically, this lightsaber smith is about to be attacked, and so he gives his lightsaber to his daughter to bring to what's essentially going to be the Council of these Jedi's meeting for the first time to reforge the new Jedi Order. And I really like the episode. I think it was interesting. It's definitely one that deals a lot with the themes of Star Wars and the story of Star Wars. And I don't want to spoil too much of the episode, but there's a pretty nice twist in there, and I like this episode a lot. I rank this one actually third overall. And this one, for some behind the scenes info, actually started off as two stories. They had the story, the studio had pitched two stories. One was about the blacksmith who was able to create a lightsaber even though he didn't have the Force, and then the other one was about like this girl, helping reform the new Jedi Order, and it was actually Lucasfilm that pitched to them like, hey, what if you? I know we said these shorts are only allowed to be 10 to 15 minutes, but what if we combine these two ideas and we let you guys just do one longer short instead of two shorter ones? And the people at the studio really liked that, and they agreed to it, and so that's why this is the longest one at like 22 minutes. So, Tristan, what are your thoughts?
yeah. I figured you would like this one. I was almost thinking it was going to be number one, so I'm really curious what your number one is. And I saw your list on
I already
Twitter,
said
but
my number one. My number one's the Duel.
oh, of course, yeah, yeah. I was thinking when I finished the show that this would be number one. So coming into this, I'm excited. Yeah, I was excited to see that you had a different number one. Then, yeah. For me, this definitely worked. For me, I have it the same rank as. Oh, you know what? I have it at number four, so I think one rank below you. But I thought this was pretty good overall. I liked how it seemed to add to the lore of Star Wars in its own way. It's not quite canon, but it almost could be in a
Yeah,
certain way. Like it's so ancient
yeah,
that this could easily have happened, and that is something that we talked about on this show. I think is wanting out of Star Wars is a look at the way back in the past. Like the forming of the Sith and like get us away from the Skywalkers, get us away from everything we've seen before. And this felt like that, and at
See,
least in its setting.
see,
But
it's funny. You look at this one and you think, oh, this took place like thousands of years before the Star Wars we know. I almost envision this one happening like thousands of years after Episode 9.
interesting. I wonder if they establish a timeline at all. Because when I as it is, that was definitely how I thought. Like, oh, it's some ancient time. But yeah, I liked that Star Wars can go in either direction. I think it works.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing I slightly wasn't on board with was like the fact that like the lightsaber color changes based on like who's wielding it, but that also goes back to like original concepts for Return of the Jedi. If there was going to be a moment where like when Luke is going angry on Vader, that his lightsaber starts to turn red, or there was going to be a moment where Vader grabs Luke's lightsaber and it turns red and stuff like that. Um, but that was, and that's like a minor gripe with the episode. I did like it a lot, and it's what we were talking before. This is one of the ones that, if we were to see a sequel to any of them, this is one of the ones I'd most want to see a sequel to.
Yeah, I thought this was really an interesting one. I wanted to mention before I forget studio as well. Production IG, I believe is the name. They have a whole bunch of interesting stuff. They worked in the Ghost in the Shell universe on the Ghost in the Shell spinoffs that I
Yep.
really enjoyed a lot, at least of the TV shows they worked on. And they also worked on other Batman. We have two Batman appearances on the list here. They worked on Batman Gotham Knight, which it
Okay.
was the short. It's like an anthology of shorts connected to Batman that are canon to the Christopher Nolan movie universe. So if you want to get a bit more of the Christopher Nolan movie verse, and you like The Ninth Jedi, might be one to check out.
All right, and I'm just doing some quick research here. Just talking while I do research because I
One
want
thing I
I
wanted
want
to say, for me, a reason that this wasn't higher on the list and the reason that it's kind of in the middle for me is that despite the setting feeling very unique, I didn't necessarily feel like it stood apart. Like this could have been in any normal Star Wars animated show. I didn't necessarily feel like it took full advantage of being this off the wall, what if kind of show, and that isn't necessarily a knock on it, but for me, that was what something that boosted a lot of these up was how creatively they used Star Wars and really changed it. And this, like, it could have been a comic, it could have been in the Star Wars universe already for
yep.
me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Outside of the lightsaber color changes, this is one that just could have been canon basically, and they could be like this takes place either 10,000 years before Episode 9 or 10,000 years after Episode 9. But
And I wanted to say that I actually was positive on the lightsaber change thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah,
And I
I,
like that addition to the lore. I wouldn't be disappointed to see that be like a real thing in
I
Star
just
Wars.
think,
Like,
well, because the problem I think like I don't mind, and we'll talk about that more with the next one. I don't really mind it because it's a non-canon short, but like they've kind of established how lightsaber colors change, and so I feel like if they were to go against that now, it would just like they've already like altered canon a little bit, minor things here and there between like comics and TV shows, but they've like explicitly stated it in books now, where I feel like if they were to go against that, people would be like, "What? Well, what the shit? We don't even understand how anything works anymore." But
I like the idea of it that it's in touch with the user rather than just like a crystal,
yeah.
and that the crystal itself can in some way be connected to the soul of the user.
Well, that's how it is, but it's not like as instant because in the Ahsoka book, Ahsoka takes two red lightsabers from Inquisitors, and like she has to disassemble the lightsaber and like heal the crystal, and it turns white and stuff. And so it's possible, and it's still attuned to the user. It's just not like an instantaneous process like how it was presented in the short. But moving on, we have T0B1, which is a short I honestly thought I would hate going into it because it looked like nothing I would be interested in. And I'll be honest, did rank it 9 out of 9, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was cool. It was basically a kind of Pinocchio story of this droid who wants to be a Jedi, And there were some really interesting visuals in there, especially in like these kind of dream sequences. The animation style quickly grew on me. We had a showdown between him and an Inquisitor, which I thought was cool. And it's like I said last time, if this was canon, I would absolutely 100% hate this short. But because it's like a non-canon thing that's just like inspired by Star Wars, um, I was able to buy into it more with like this droid who wants to be a Jedi. I think if this was like supposed to be canon and like happened in universe, I'd be like, this is stupid. I hate it. But I can disassociate it on that level. And especially when I watched the featurette, because they said in the featurette, which I don't think they fully explained clearly in the short itself, is when his master calls him Toby for the first time. Um, that I guess unlocks all of his training that he supposedly had. That his master, who we learn it was a Jedi, like gave him or like uploaded into him, but like put it in like some secret program. So him saying the name Toby for the
Hmm.
first time is what unlocks all of the training and it allows him to like have the ability and skills to defeat the Inquisitor, which I don't think
Yeah.
was fully explained in the short itself.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I did not pick that up, but I did like this one a lot. I thought the art style was really, really like great.
Yeah,
Honestly, I thought it was one of the more interesting art styles, and I liked Astro Boy a lot when I was young.
yeah, very
And
heavy Astro Boy vibes.
yeah, this is very heavy Astro Boy vibes, so it was giving me the nostalgia. It also had like kind of Cuphead vibes to the character, look, the design of the character a bit, and I like that. This was yeah, definitely one that I have it right in the middle for me. I have it at 5 on my list, but that's not to say I didn't like it. I thought it was really visually creative and interesting to look at throughout the entirety of it, and I had um I really liked the way that it was kind of like this island of misfit toys rising up at the end, like these little the experiments kind of coming together, and especially like that he was able to complete the research of his father and bring it all together. I thought it was a great episode, and yeah, one that for me had the most interesting visuals maybe of the whole series, and also provided a genuinely stunning lightsaber battle. A lot of these where it's like this simple animation can the lightsaber battles can be kind of disappointing potentially, and I think that his battle with the Inquisitor was really cool. I love the Inquisitors as
Mm,
characters,
yeah,
so it was a really cool battle, and I liked how it was able to balance like the Kitty Astrobot kind of opening, and then also have a cool battle at the end.
yeah.
That gave it a best of both.
Yeah, we definitely got that. And I just like the story overall in general. And I honestly was going into this episode thought I was going to hate it. And there's another episode on the list that we haven't gotten to yet that, based on the pictures alone, I thought I was going to hate it. And I ended up really enjoying it. But going back to the cast, I just wanted to say that the character of Mitaka, who is the like Jedi turned scientist, is voiced by Kyle Chandler, who people might know from the Friday Night Lights TV show. He's also in Argo. He's also in the recent Godzilla movies. So
Yeah, I don't know this studio very well, Science Saru, but they did another episode on the season that we're going to talk about in a second. Uh, so we got two things from this studio.
all right. All right, you're next ready to move on to the Elder.
I'm ready. Another repeat studio.
Yep. Next up, we got the Elder, and it's basically these two Jedi, master and an apprentice, uh, are out in the world, and the master feels a dark presence, and they run across this dark presence, who is the Elder, who's essentially just this old Sith Lord going around just looking for things to kill, looking for Jedi to kill. Honestly, it almost felt like as a sport, for something to do. He's like this weird, kind of crazy old man, and it's kind of the master trying to impart like lessons onto his student. And I just thought it was a really kind of cool, interesting story, especially when you see the behind the scenes featurette and you learn that the director of this is like this big acclaimed anime director who got his start because he loved Star Wars, and like that was the first thing he started drawing, was like his vision and like his inspiration for Star Wars. And he made this, and this was kind of his swan song, the thing he wanted to retire on. So he said he'll only come. Basically, what it sounded like is in the featurette, he's only coming back if they do a season 2 and they ask him to do a second one. Is the thing that basically he made it sound like he's coming back. And he said he thought it was kind of interesting because he wanted younger people to be able to watch this and connect with the apprentice, and he wanted older people to watch this and connect with the master. So he wanted this to connect with people from both age groups, which reminded me of another creator in the Star Wars universe, because that basically sounds like something George Lucas would say. So I like that aspect of it. But what were your thoughts?
This one I thought was okay. I have it at the bottom of my ranking, but it's not bad. But for me, it was a bit boring, and I liked what it was going for with the themes. So I'll start with the positives on that and say I thought the themes are really interesting and the way that the elder talked about how old age kind of took him out, and I like the examination of like no matter how much power you seek, like you're gonna get taken out eventually by the force in the universe, and that's how the universe kind of works. Is like you can seek power, sure, but they're ultimately going to get you in the end anyway. And I think that's a lesson of it within Star Wars, something that I think is core to like a lot of the Sith arcs in Star Wars. Is like you can seek the power, and I think ultimately a lot of that is trying to escape death and escape like the ultimate uh the ultimate question of like, oh, what happens after we die? And I think a lot of the power seeking of the Sith is to avoid having to die. You know, you get that from
Yep.
Palpatine,
Yep.
and so I think that was really a cool element of this. And for me, yeah, it just didn't necessarily, especially coming from Studio Trigger, who gave us the twins, which is such a really visually crazy and compelling stuff, and they've given us a lot of that in their past. And I think the director, I think, was the founder or the president of Studio Trigger, so he's very prominent in that. And I think he made this in a way also to kind of change the image of Studio Trigger a little bit to show that they can do something that's not like the huge, colorful, like really explosive action kind of thing. So in that way, I appreciate this as a, especially like for his career, as a something that is very different from anything he's done before, or anything different from something that Studio Trigger has done before. So I'd really like to see them do something in this style again. Even though this experiment didn't necessarily work perfectly for me, I liked seeing them do it.
Yep. And one thing I was gonna add is to drop the cast really quick. I think this is maybe one of the more high-profile casts, even though there's only three characters. You have Jordan Fisher, who people will probably know if they've seen High School Musical, the musical, the series. He plays I can't remember her brother, the basically the new girl in the show. Her brother, that's like the music producer. Um, him. You have David Harbour as Tajin the Master, and then you have James Hong, who's like an iconic, legendary actor, 92 years old, voicing the Elder. So
I ended up rewatching this one in English because I heard that the voice cast was so interesting, and I really liked David Harbour's performance.
yeah, yeah, I like this episode a lot.
I liked all the performances, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
David Harbour, like for me, I was listening to that and I was like, oh, I would love to see David Harbour do like an animated Han Solo show.
yeah, yeah. All right. So next up, I believe we have Lop and Ocho, which is the one I thought, based on the pictures alone, I was going to hate going into it, and I actually really ended up liking it a lot. I rated this one 4 out of 9. And basically, the plot of this episode is this rabbit-looking girl is adopted into this family with this father and daughter, and raised alongside her sister, and then her sister essentially ends up joining the Empire, and she finds out that her adopted father owns or has a lightsaber that has been gifted through many generations from someone who got it, was basically a Jedi, had gifted like her father's like great 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 grandfather a lightsaber, and it's been passed through generations. So this is kind of a universe where Luke Skywalker, I guess, never really blew up the Death Star, and the Empire was allowed to exist for many generations. And you kind of have this sister, battle, kind of philosophical battle. You have like the prodigal son and the faithful son kind of a situation where the biological daughter the whole time was like, yeah, we're sisters, and then as soon as they confront, she's like, you're not even my real sister, like you're not his real daughter, like I'm the true heir to that lightsaber. And this is one of the ones the most that, like, when it ended, I'm like, wait, the fuck, like I need the rest of this story, man. and that's part of why it's rated so low, but also like why it's my number one. If they're like we need a sequel to any of them, and I get to pick, La Pinocho is my number one draft pick for which one gets a sequel. Because I'm like I'm interested, I'm invested, but I feel like I only really saw the first half of the story.
Yeah, I'd like to get more from this one. For me, I have it at number 6, which is just under the Toby 1 episode. But yeah, I still liked it a lot, and I think in particular I like the animation in this one. I think
Yeah. The look of
it
the
had this
dad
kind
was
of
really cool.
classical look to it, and they added a lot of like effects to make it look hand drawn and kind of old school with the backgrounds being hand drawn and this kind of artificial shadowing going on underneath the animation. But I liked it a lot, and it felt very anime too. I've seen this kind of an anime before, where they have like the animal esque main character. I That's a big thing in anime, so it was cool to get that kind of genre within this as they explored throughout the genres of anime. But yeah, this was a good one for me. I think I would like to see a lot more from it. Give me, give me, a sequel episode. Or there were a few where I was saying like, if they released, a book or a comic, I'd be probably picking it up and reading it based on some of
Yeah.
these characters.
Well, the Ronin. Oh, I forgot to say that's what I was gonna say for the duel. We are getting a book about the lead character of the Ronin, and it was released that the first two chapters of the book are essentially going to be a novelization of the short, and then everything after that's going to be completely new and original from the uh, from the short. So if you saw uh, the duel and you're like, I want more of this story, well, you're in luck because they're releasing a book that's more of the story.
Yeah, I would like to see more from this one. I had no idea. I don't know the studio at all. I looked them up and I hadn't seen anything they worked on or really heard anything about anything they worked on. So I can't say much about them. But I'd at least like to see them do more work in Star Wars.
Yep, definitely. All right. Do you want to talk about the last one, Akakiri?
Let's do it. We got our repeat
Uh,
studio too.
yeah, Akakiri is one where basically it reminded me very much of the Obi-Wan and Satine story of the Jedi and this princess fall in love. And you could also even say, I guess, Anakin and Padme, where this Jedi is reuniting with this princess that he's fallen in love with before, and he's been seeing visions of her dying, and he's like trying to figure out how to prevent them. And it's kind of a whole self-fulfilling prophecy thing where he goes and attacks the people that he thinks are going to be responsible, and it's like these masked creatures. Turns out they kidnapped her, slapped a mask on her, and he's the one that ended up killing her. Spoiler alert. And that has some ramifications. But this one also, if you watch the behind-the-scenes featurette, is one that definitely reverts back to the Hidden Fortress. Have you seen the Hidden Fortress or no?
I have seen the Hidden
Okay, yeah,
Fortress.
yeah. So basically, there's two characters in that are heavily inspired R2D2 and C3PO, and they essentially just brought those two characters into this short. One of them voiced by Star Trek's George Takei. And then we also have Jamie Chung, who people might know back in the day from the Real World. I believe she's also in the Hangover movies. And then we have Henry Golding, who was in Crazy Rich Asians. He was just in Snake Eyes. He was in The Gentleman. He's kind of the lead of this movie, or of this short. And so it's good voice cast, really good story, and I believe I rated this one the fifth out of nine. But I really did enjoy it. Tristan, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting one. I mentioned earlier that I think the Force is my favorite part of Star Wars, and this really got into the Force and into the kind of Vision Quest side of the Force. That's something that the Clone Wars occasionally got into, and they were always my favorite parts of the Clone Wars, is like the Mortis arc and those kinds of things where they got really into what the Force can show visually on screen, and this did that for me. You mentioned the connection to the character of the Hidden Fortress, which I thought was cool, especially because of the Star Wars connection, but just because I liked Hidden Fortress, and it was cool to see that connective tissue. So for me, I have this at number 7. It's
Okay.
slightly low on the list for me, but mostly because I thought it was a bit too short, almost like it
Yeah.
was too in and out, and I didn't quite connect with the characters. I like the visuals and I like the idea of exploring the forest in that way, but I didn't quite feel like why I should care about what I was seeing on the screen necessarily. I
Yeah.
thought it was good. I still I don't think any of these are bad shorts,
No.
but yeah, for me it's at number six. I like the animation and the kind of exploring of the forest, but the actual story itself and the characters lacked for me in a way that some of the other ones didn't.
Yeah, I can understand that. All right. So we kind of talked about this up top, but what format are you? Because basically, what it seems like, if this is popular and this goes over well, this is something they'll be interested in and keep doing and doing more non-canon content. How would you want to see that moving forward?
I would love to see more uh, from this style. I think the Visions is a great concept of handing it off to these studios that have an entirely different vision of what Star Wars is. I think if you were like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to give it to like similar to the short circuit thing that they're doing, where they're or we're going to give it to like Disney animators or Pixar animators, and they're going to make Star Wars shorts. I don't think it would be as creative as this. So I think something that's key if they want to get beyond the canon and out into the realms of craziness is that they give it to outside voices and people who never have worked in Star Wars before. And I think as much as I would love to see these studios come back for season two of Visions, maybe one or two should, but I would like to see season two be a bunch of new studios who still haven't worked in Star Wars and say, here's the keys, do what you want to do, you know?
Yep. Yeah, one of the things, like the format, I hope this is kind of like a once a year thing. I think with them combining two of the shorts, that this was originally intended to be 10. So if they did like 10 shorts every year, 7 of them are original, 3 of them sequels, I'd be down with that.
Yeah, and
And
even
switch out the
beyond,
studios. See, it doesn't have to be 10 new studios every year, but if they just kind of had a cycle of maybe 15-ish studios and, kind of mix and match and whatever and just new one every year, that I'd look forward to it every year when they dropped it.
yeah, it would be fun every year to see how they drop it. I think something that might have benefited this series a little bit in terms of format would be to have released it in chunks because I think by the end of a binge, this could feel a little bit repetitive to some people. Like you're getting a lot of the same lines, a lot of the same beats, and some of
Yeah,
the same characters. And if you're not super into the visual differences, this might be something that you get by the end. You're like, okay, I've seen this arc every episode practically. I've seen them do the. I've got a bad feeling about this line every way they can do it, and I think it might have benefited them to do like, oh, here's three this week, and then we'll do three next week, and then maybe three the next week. You know, if they
yeah,
were to release them like that, or however it would even
yeah,
out.
yeah. I get that.
But overall, I'm super happy with this. I think this has been great. You know, I didn't necessarily know what to expect and how comparatively to What If, where it was like, oh, we're going to be zany and out there with Marvel, and then it's kind of just like a lot of the same stories told differently and not quite ambitious and sometimes. And like What If has been very up and down, and I think this was mostly up. You know,
Yeah,
even the low episodes were still pretty good. So I was really impressed by this, and I can't wait to see more. Whether it's Vision season two or something more of just this concept of completely abandoning canon in Star Wars and letting the people just do whatever.
yeah, definitely. All right, you ready to move on to our next topic of Disney Plus Day?
I'm ready. We covered that. It was a nice long conversation, Joe.
Yeah, I was gonna clip it out, but that was basically our entire show. So I don't really know if there's much need to clip out our Vision segment. Just watch our entire episode for the most part. So yeah, Disney Plus Day is gonna be November 12th. It's this big celebration, essentially, of Disney. They're dropping a lot of stuff. Here's just kind of a rundown of what's gonna be releasing November 12th on Disney Plus. We're gonna get the streaming premiere of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Jungle Cruise will also be dropping. We're getting the Disney Plus original movie Home Sweet Home Alone, which is a reimagining of the franchise Home Alone. We're also getting an original series of shorts from Walt Disney Animation called Olaf Presents, which is essentially Olaf from Frozen retelling several classic Disney tales, and which should be annoying as shit because I hate that character. And Josh Gad has me blocked on Twitter, so he will not be getting love from me. And then the U.S. Disney Plus will be streaming some fan favorite shorts from Walt Disney Animation, including Frozen Fever. We'll get Oscar-winning shorts like Feast and Paperman, and then Oscar-nominated Mickey Mouse short Get a Horse. We'll also be getting the animated short film Ciao Alberto from Pixar, featuring characters from the movie Luca. And then we'll be getting a new short from The Simpsons that pays tribute to Disney Plus's marquee brands. We'll be getting 5 episodes of season 2 of The World According to Jeff Goldblum, which is, I think, a very hit or miss show for me. We didn't obviously talk about that, or we didn't have this show when Disney Plus debuted, so I don't really ever know if you saw that or what your thoughts were on that. The thing I'm most excited though is definitely a special celebrating the origins and legacy of Star Wars' legendary bounty hunter Boba Fett. And then we'll also be getting a special celebrating the Marvel Cinematic Universe on Disney Plus with an exciting look towards the future. So, just a lot of content dropping that day. It's going to be a big day. I think if I was a betting man, I would say November 12th is also the day we're getting a trailer for the Book of Boba Fett. Maybe at the very end of that documentary, but
Yeah, I think we get more than that. I expect a good amount of Marvel stuff.
yeah,
Because we have an idea of what their shows are going to be for next year, but we don't really have like a release schedule or any idea of what's coming out when.
yeah, I
So
could
I
see.
definitely think by the end we get at least a general layout of what the release schedule is going to be like for 2022.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because they're calling it the inaugural, so I think this is going to be a yearly thing. We're right around that time. Every year we'll be getting something that's kind of like, hey, this is what you have to look forward to for next year.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's fun to kind of bring the fans together. I mean, people don't need more of an excuse to talk about Disney Plus. I feel like we talk about it all the time online, but I love these kind of things like DC fandom, like just getting the fans together to talk about something that we all love and have a good time for a day. And you know, it reminds me of Comic Con. It reminds me of all those things where you just get to enjoy yourself and look forward to the future and be excited. That it's going to be fun to sit here. I would love to that day do a live stream of us watching the Marvel and Star Wars things just to get our reactions to any reveals or any announcements as we're doing it. And
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a Friday, so if you don't work that day and we're able to get on at like 5, I mean it really depends on what time. Is this thing going from like 8 to noon, or is this thing going to be like? Because I feel like the smart money. I mean, granted, do they want to do it early and have people talk about it all day, or do they want people to be able to like? I'm just curious what the format is going to be. Are they just like obviously the movies and shows? It's going to be like 3 a.m. Western time, 12 a.m. or 3 a.m. Eastern time, 12 a.m. is probably just Shang-Chi's going to be up. But as far as like some of the trailers and the debuts, is there going to be like a format? You know what I'm saying? Like hosts and like um a pack. You know what I'm trying to say here?
yeah, I'm
With
really
like
curious about that too because I was wondering if it's going to be like that. Are they going to like DC fandom or like Comic Con where they have the hosts, they come out and give a panel and announce things, or is it just going to be like,
yeah, all this stuff.
oh, all
Yes,
these specials drop at midnight and that's
yeah,
all you get?
yeah. Like I think a lot of like the shorts and the movies and all that. I think those are just going to be direct drops. But I'm curious, like, because I feel like there's gonna be trailers and a lot of stuff that day. Like, they're definitely drawing attention to something that so far their advertising is just like, yeah, movies that you've already seen are gonna drop, shorts you've already seen are gonna drop, and oh, like 5 episodes of a show no one talked about are gonna drop, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they're building hype for something that doesn't really necessarily warrant the hype. So I feel like there has to be more, and I would assume trailers and announcements and all of that is going to be part of the hype.
Yeah, if I was Disney, I drop the movies and shows at midnight like I normally do, but I definitely don't put the specials on at midnight. You don't want to announce Marvel shows at 3 in the morning. Like
Yeah.
you want people to be engaged and talking about them immediately.
Yeah, I'd love it if they were like, yeah, we're having a live, basically Disney Plus panel that if you have Disney Plus, it's just going to be on top of the banner. You click on it, and you get to watch, live, or you could rewind to the beginning if you didn't get there, and it's going to be starting at, 6 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Western time, or whatever, or
Yeah, I would even
six
be
o'clock
down.
Eastern, 3 o'clock West Coast time, or something.
Yeah, all I really expect from them is like, okay, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're gonna be dropping the MCU special, so watch it at Disney Plus, and I at least expected to drop it like a semi-normal time. There's no real reason to drop something like that at the middle of the night if you're going to be announcing stuff. If it's just a behind the scenes look, if it's just like really lightweight, shallow kind of stuff that's like, oh, look forward to it when it comes out. Maybe
Yeah,
they drop it at midnight, but yeah, if there's any level of an announcement, any level of a new trailer, that kind of a thing, I think it drops it at a time when the actual press is going to be
yeah,
watching it and things like that.
yeah. Yeah, normally, like a Book of Boba Fett, I would expect to be like during a football game or something, but not on a Friday night. There's nothing on a Friday night, so it'll be curious to see how that all plays out. Because I will, at this point, I'll be shocked if the Book of Boba, unless there's some kind of leak and like some garbage like phone recording of the Book of Boba Fett trailer, and they're like, well, we just got to release the real version now, so people's first impression isn't a phone leak. But outside of that, I'll be shocked if the Book of Boba Fett trailer doesn't drop November 12th.
Yeah, I think we see that. I think we probably see a first look at Moon Knight. We probably
Yeah,
see a first. I think we get a good idea of like their plot layout for Secret Wars, like because that's coming pretty soon
yeah,
too. So
yeah,
like we gotta see how that's gonna tie things together. And
yeah.
I imagine maybe a season 2 announcement for something because we've gotten
Yeah.
a maybe Falcon the Winter Soldier we get a season 2 date or Loki we get a season 2
I
date.
would say Loki. Well, Loki, we have with Loki season 2 confirmed. I could easily see a season 2 date. I'm curious if we. I doubt we'll get a Falcon and Winter Soldier season 2 because we're getting Captain America 4. You know.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So I feel like that's essentially gonna be the Falcon the Winter Soldier season 2. But I could see a Loki date or at
Yeah.
least a window saying like fall
Yeah.
2023 or whatever it is gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not going to
But
announce anything potentially with WandaVision before Multiverse of Madness comes out. So,
yeah, I'm gonna say, Joe, give me some kind of wild prediction here. If
like,
you're Disney, do you want to pull out a wild card, something, some kind of show announcement, some kind of casting announcement for a Disney Plus show that's Marvel or Star Wars related? What do you drop during the one of these specials?
can you give me a minute to look up to see when the announced shows are?
I'll give you a minute, Joe. You can look that up,
All right.
and I'll say if I was announcing this, I definitely focus
It's
my
hard not to
Marvel.
think movies, especially with Marvel. Are we saying Marvel and Star Wars, or
Look, we're talking about Marvel, so I was thinking about Marvel, but yeah, we could do Marvel or Star Wars. Because if I was Marvel, I focus this very much on the Secret Wars thing and the building up that storyline. I think that Hawkeye is going to be the show that kind of gets that plot moving a bit more. Because you've had these background movements of the Power Broker, so I think you focus it on Hawkeye. You bring in some actors. Let's think here. We got to cast some scrolls.
so? Okay, we have 4 shows in 2022. We have Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and Secret Invasion. So, okay, so Hawkeye supposedly has 6 episodes. So I don't think. I think maybe Secret Invasion casting, but like Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and She Hulk aren't big enough properties that like side characters in those shows, like casting is not going to get hype. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Batman where you're having a Batman show and you're bringing out, and we got like so and so as Alfred or so and so as the Joker, and like everyone goes crazy. You'd be like, so we have so and so as random Moon Knight villain, and people are going to be like, okay, that's cool, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like anything wild and crazy casting wise would be in the movies, and I just don't see them for Disney Plus. I feel them focusing more on Star Wars. So I feel like anything crazy would have to be Star Wars. So I would say, hmm, if we were getting a casting announcement
I will say
for
that
Star Wars.
Moon Knight is getting hyped up, and the villain is going to played by Ethan Hawke. So I could see like a costume reveal or something like
Yeah.
that,
But
if
I
not
feel
in
like
the
again,
teaser.
I feel like again you want like general audience to go crazy. I think if you're doing casting, that's gonna be in the realm of Star Wars. You know,
Yeah, because you're not going to cast Mr. Fantastic. You're not going to cast
yeah,
the
because that's
X
gonna
Men.
be movies. Unless the only way I see that is if you're like at the X Men are appearing in Miss Marvel, and your new Professor X is Jeremy Irons, and Jeremy Irons walks out on stage as Professor, or rolls out in the wheelchair as Professor X, or something stupid.
I
But
could even see them casting like a lower tier X Men, like bringing in a mutant that they didn't have the rights to until now, and that could be exciting in that way as well.
yeah,
But I do think they're gonna Disney Plus has a chance to bring a lot of big names that could draw people in. So I think Marvel, whether it's Marvel or Star Wars, I think it could be exciting to see who they're gonna bring into the Marvel family, as they say.
Yeah, I'm just looking up Star Wars right now. So we have Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka. Oh, I know what would get fans interested for the Disney Plus for casting. You bring out Mina Masoud, uh, Lars Mickelson, and whoever your cast for Sabine is, along with Rosario Dawson out.
That would be an intense one. I
That's my wild prediction is Lars Mickelson, Mina Masoud, and whoever they settle on for Sabine, along with Rosario Dawson, announced as part of the cast for Ahsoka.
I like that a lot because I do think the discourse of fandom has been so focused on specifically the multiverse in Marvel and who's casting as what and who's going to be in what and who's not going to be in what that I feel like in a way we've forgotten about Star Wars and that like that's still an active franchise with a lot of stuff going on and yeah I think it would be fun to bring out the cast for Ahsoka to finally confirm who's going to be in it and who's in terms of Rebels characters and
Yeah,
give us a better look, especially at the future of Star Wars on Disney Plus, because we have one show
yeah,
and we don't really have a good idea of the future. We have shows announced, but yeah, I would like to get a good picture. It's going to be exciting because both of these properties, specifically on Disney Plus, have exciting 2021s with a lot of stuff coming out.
yeah. It's gonna be jam packed. And I would say also Mando season 3 like confirmation, like an announcement. Mando season 3 coming December, 2022.
Yeah, I definitely think we get that, and I wonder if
And I
we get a
think
Cad
harder
Bane
release dates.
casting.
I don't know. I feel like that's maybe too far out. Granted, um, Ahsoka's like the furthest out almost, but
Because Cad Bane is only 2 months away if he's a Boba Fett.
yeah, that's true. But I also feel like Ezra and Thrawn and Ahsoka or Sabine are gonna be like big parts of the Ahsoka show, and like they're gonna be filming. And if like Lars Mikkelsen and Mina Masoud are like, you know, posting on Instagram like, oh, on the set of Ahsoka, like people are gonna be able to figure it out. So you might as well like announce it and get ahead of it.
Yeah, don't have it leak online like the other guys.
Yeah. So that's my big bold prediction, as well as harder release dates for the Marvel and Star Wars shows for 2022. Of like maybe not necessarily like, you know, unless something is releasing like on May 4th for Star Wars, I feel like it's gonna be more like, okay, this is releasing in June, this is releasing in July, this is releasing in Whatever, not
Hmm.
necessarily like hard dates, but or at
Yeah, I
least
think
like
we
the order of shows, like because we still fully don't know the order because there's some reports that Kenobi's going to be the first live action Star Wars show of 2022, and there's some reports that it's Andor. So even just like the order of them.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get this. Both of these specials will be fun. We talked a lot
Yeah.
about them, but I'm looking forward to it. It'll be great to get a good picture of what the future is for the Disney Plus, and
All right.
both of these franchises we're both personally invested in. So, and TV is going to be a big part of both of them going forward.
Yep. All right. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with Disney Plus?
No, it'll be a fun Disney Plus day. If I can get the day off, I might even just do a really long stream of Disney Plus related content and cover it all.
All right. So I'll look forward to that this week on Movie Change Up. Hopefully, we'll be doing a bracket. Fingers crossed. We got a text in the main group to figure out what the hell we're doing. Come back, join us next week as we discuss, I assume, episode 4 of Doogie Kame Aloha. We'll be discussing whatever episode of What If drops and anything else that pops up on Disney Plus. If you see something and you want us to cover it, tweet us at Movie Changeup. Tweet us individually. We'll try to find it. If you want us to cover it, we'll cover it. So, without further ado, goodbye.
Hey, thank you for watching the Movie Change Up podcast. We'd really appreciate if you liked, commented, subscribed, and shared us with anyone you think might be into what we're doing over here. Thank you. Have a nice day.